Hey guys, have you ever wondered what are the kind of like reasons why autistic women and girls are always like forgotten about? Like, why is that? Well, in this video, I'm actually showing you 4 of the most interesting hidden signs of autism in females that you probably didn't even notice, and we're going to get into it right now. Okay, guys, so we're going to talk about the first thing here is masking to then meltdown. And what this basically means, like if we think about autism in general, and just for your information, guys, my name is Dan, and I have autism and ADHD. Now, if you're new around here and you want to learn more about this specifically stuff, then hit that subscribe button down below by clicking the notification bell. So, masking. There's 2 terms here. We're talking about masking and meltdowns, but masking to meltdown, these are 2 terms that kind of go comorbidly or co-occurring within girls on the autism spectrum. And here's the reason why. So, girls and females on the autism spectrum have a different brain chemistry, right? Because we're all different. Anthropologically speaking, you know, our brains are different, our muscle mass is different, and we think about things in a different way. So males think about things different to females, right? It's just no big brainer. Like, you know, we all can see this as typical, right? That being said, the same type of thing applies to the way in which the autistic person, whether male or female, interacts with the world around them and shows those traits of the autism within themselves. So how this works is autistic guys, so males on the autism spectrum would like go to school, right, or go to work, and they'd be like, no, this is rubbish. And they'd like melt down. If they were having an issue interacting with people who have an issue with something sensory processing wise, they'd just melt down then and there. Right, they would just have an emotional outburst and they would melt down there, and then people were like, "Oh goodness, you know, this is so apparent that this person has issues that are neurologically kind of like showing, you know, like autism, ADHD, or something like that." Now, women and girls on the autism spectrum, what is different here is that women want to try to fit in order to survive, right? So it's kind of like the pack issue where males always want to be alpha dominant, so they believe that like inherently that their way is the only way, because they're trying to become alpha, right? We're thinking about pack animals or hunter-gatherers. And then females are trying to fit into the group to sustain the success of the entire group, right? Whereas males sometimes can be competitive to be just on their own. And that sounds kind of like quite, you know, scientific, but it's not really that scientific. It's just very basic. So masking. Girls on the autism spectrum will pretend to go along with the norm, right? So they'll be in school or work, and all the girls are like, hey, we all drink Diet Coke, and we're all going to go out for pizza at lunch, and we're all going to go to the bar afterwards for drinks. And like, that sounds like something that maybe the typical girls in the office want to do, but, you know, an autistic female probably feel that those things will be quite intense, essentially input from those places alone. Maybe they don't like pizza, maybe they've got food aversions, all those kind of things. But instead of kind of relaying that information, like a male on the autism spectrum, which would be like, no, and deny it, the girls on the autism spectrum will force themselves to go into that situation. Now, what happens when a girl on the autism spectrum is masking, right? Putting on a front, pretending to be a character so that they fit in with the kind of group as a whole. Now, what actually happens is they still feel all those emotions. They still feel sensory overwhelm. They still feel social, you know, the issues where they can't communicate properly with the group. But rather than display those and talk about them openly, they kind of hold that in and they build that up. Of course, over a long period of time, I mean, and even as short as like, you know, 3 to 8 hours, that's still a long period of time. I have a free Autism Life Hacks PDF book that you can download right now from autismtips.net. It's completely free. You can go there right now and download it. That will bottle up and it will have to come out. That motion will be bubbling up because there's only so much you can take as a person. It's kind of like Buckaroo. Remember that game where you like stack things on and like kicks back? So this is a scenario. You know, autistic woman goes to work, masks all day, pretends to be part of the group, pretends to understand the things that the group are talking about, then goes home and completely melts down. And this means that they have an emotional outburst. Maybe they'll cry, maybe they'll kick and scream, maybe they're angry, maybe they're distressed, maybe they'll cry, maybe they're completely burnt out that they'll just collapse. I know in some cases that some females will go home and they'll just throw up because they've been masking all day. They've been holding all this in to try and kind of become part of the group, when in actual fact they should just be themselves. But like, it's not as easy as that when you have a neurological condition and you're trying to do the best you can to survive in a situation. I wrote about this quite specifically about masking and in my book Autism for Adults, where like it's kind of like being in like a shark infested water. You know, how do you swim like a shark? And I feel like autistic females have got it down brilliantly to an art where they can mask in certain situations, but then it's completely explosive in other situations. And it's it's this specifically masking this specific trait of autism in females that's caused a lot of confusion in trying to diagnose females across the longer board of history. So back in like 1940s, when they started diagnosing autism or kind of like researching it, they only thought that males had autism because the males were displaying these things kind of like quite upfront and ad hoc, like they were just lashing out in those moments, whereas the females were more reserved in those moments and then would lash out later. So they weren't sure that it was the same thing, which is kind of a bit silly that they didn't think that. But look, that was history. Now we're revisiting it, we're getting over it, and we're doing things differently. And I know that there's a big push now in the National Autistic Society to kind of understand autism in females. So this is one of those things. Like if you're a parent, right, or you're a female and daughter. If you're a parent, you've got a daughter and she goes to school, seems to be doing okay academically, right, and then comes back and has a complete and utter meltdown. This is basically one of those things where you go, oh goodness, this could be autism. And it's the same, aspect. If you're a female on the autism spectrum and maybe you don't even realize that you're autistic, and this is sounding familiar, then that's why. And I'd highly recommend thinking about discussing this with your doctor or healthcare professional. But it's a massive giveaway, and I think it's one of these top hidden signs of autism in females. Okay, so number 2 is mimicking. Mimicking is basically the exact same thing as it says. You mimic somebody else's behavior. So a female on the autism spectrum will be in a situation where, I don't know, they might say, hey, would you like a vodka martini at the bar? And then the autistic female will just be like, yes, of course, because the girl next to them in their social setting has said yes also. This mimicking, again, is a way of survival amongst sharks, and I was using this term metaphorically. It's because they believe that is what to do in that situation. And autistic people taking things at face value and taking things very literally, taking things very seriously, will see that and go, okay, this is where I need to be and this is the thing that I need to be doing. So I'm just going to mimic this because it seems to be working for this person. It's kind of like a survival technique, and it's very, very interesting. So you'll see this a lot in autistic females where, and FYI guys, I've just thought of a 5th one, which I'm going to talk about right at the end, so stay tuned for that. They'll be kind of saying they don't want to do something because somebody else has done it, and then actually for a fact that they don't want to do it, or you don't want to do it yourself, and you're thinking, why did I just say yes to that? And this is typically mimicking behavior, and that is a trait of autism in females. It's probably one of the most hidden ones. I think is so interesting. Okay, number 3 is not just specific to girls, but it's hidden in girls. This is an intense focus of special interest. Now, it's no kind of secret that people on the autism spectrum will have an intense interest in something, right? So they'll be obsessed with something. They'll have an obsessive topic of interest. Mine specifically is kind of like conspiracy theories and unfortunately the 9/11 catastrophe that happened in America, trying to figure out that puzzle. And also social media marketing. Like I'm obsessed with social media marketing. So those things really interest me, but people know that, like I say it all the time, like I'm obsessed and I'll talk to anybody about it for a long, long time. But girls on the autism spectrum will be introvertly, really intensely focused on something. And I've said this before and I'll say it again, I'll use this example. True crime, murder stories. Like all the girls on the autism spectrum love this stuff, right? Well, most of them anyway. And so if this is you, give this video a thumbs up. And you won't know this until you really dig deep and ask them questions of what they're into and stuff. And then they'll tell you all the stuff they know about it. Whereas a guy in the autism spectrum will just be like, yeah, I'm into social media marketing. Here's something you need to know. Blah, blah, blah. And they'll just kind of like vomit all of that out because it's already at the forefront of their mind. They're not trying to hide anything. They're just putting it out there. But girls will have that intense focus of special interest, but it'll be behind kind of like their own like personal paywall where you have to kind of really dig deep to get inside that kind of like circle of trust to be able to understand that, which is really fascinating. Now, if all of these are matching up so far, it's because the person that in question, if it's you or somebody you know, potentially could be on the autism spectrum. I do have a test on my website. If you go to the aspyworld.com, you can do like a test like an online test to see if you're kind of like on the autism spectrum. Look, it's not an official test. It's just something that kind of gives you an indication, but you can definitely take that data to the doctor or physician if you want to kind of dig deeper into this. Okay, so number 4 is an issue with maintaining friendships. Oh my goodness. The amount of time, if I had $1 for every single time that I spoke to a parent of an autistic female and they're saying, hey, she has issues maintaining friends. They don't have an issue making friends, but have an issue maintaining friends. Because there are protocols that happen within friendships where it could be that everyone's in a WhatsApp group. It could be that everybody's wanting to hang out on a Friday night or go to the pizza place on like a Saturday, or they're going to go to Shelley's birthday party or something. There's always something going on. And those social conformities, I feel like there's a lot more pressure on young women, bless them, to kind of conform to those social kind of norms, whereas autistic females will feel like a kickback and some kind of like issue with that, because the understanding of the formation of that process can be quite difficult to kind of really grasp if you have autism, because it's a technical process that it's not given, right? You'd have to kind of like really figure that out and learn it. And so this is a big issue where autistic females will have issues maintaining friendships, and they won't know why, right? Because they'll be feeling like they're doing okay, but now they're like, oh, well, I always thought it was okay, and I was making friends with these people, and now all of a sudden they won't speak to me, and it's like, oh. And I know from personal experience, like my girlfriend had such a hard time maintaining friendships and making friendships in university. You know, even at that level is quite intense. You know, I feel for you. If that's, you know, something and you want to talk about it, pop in a comment down below. This is a caring, open forum community here, so we can all talk about it. Not a problem. Okay, so the last one I want to talk about. This is really, really interesting. This one, like, fascinates me, and it's a big subject right now. This is called pathological demand avoidance, or PDA. Now, PDA means that, like, you will have an instinctual kind of like demand avoidance or something. So if somebody's like, hey, do you want to go to the movies? And you're like, no. But actually you do want to go. Now, this happens within a lot of people on the autism spectrum, and I'm seeing this more and more as quite a more common turn. But in terms of females in the autism spectrum, I believe that this is almost inherent, where you'll say, hey, you know, would you like a slice of pizza? And they're going to go, no. Even though they do want the pizza, they'll instantly give you an avoidance from it, because pathological demand avoidance, which is just sitting there dormant and waiting to kind of like kick back. This is fascinating. You know, if all this makes sense, let me know in the comments down below.